Let me be honest, I have never been so exasperated at the level of mass stupidity as that you find on the internet about radioactivity. Is people just lap it up. I mean, they really just lap it up, even when it's obviously inconsistent with reality. So someone filled me in about this guy with a channel called Beautiful Girl by Dana, and my jaw just dropped. I mean, this was me in my last video, laughing about a completely bogus fallout map, because if those numbers had been real, about 70 million people, about a third the people in America, would have died. And that just might have made the news. Yeah, it didn't happen. California did not turn into a radioactive wasteland, and no one could be stupid enough to say that it did. Right?
How can they do that to us? How come they're not throttled and on their friggin' backs is beyond me. It's coming. They're going to put us to that because we won't be able to take it soon. California is a wasteland, period. How can it not be a wasteland when you had MOX fuel? The number 3 reactor is 2 million times worse. That went straight up into the jet stream at 100 miles per hour. It only at 24 hours is 2,400 miles.
I mean, it's difficult to know what to say when someone says that California is a radioactive wasteland when it's obviously not a radioactive wasteland, and there are about 40 million people living there who will happily tell you that. This guy has thousands of subscribers who clearly believe that he has some great insight into all of this.
I average around 600 people on a stream, but how all of these people show up on my stream each night is amazing. It truly is, and because they're not here to play games. They're not here for nonsense. They don't talk about nonsense. They're not. And we're all here together, and we're growing, and we're educating them, and we're going to dominate at some point. That's a fact. Because we have facts, we have rationality, and we have the right narrative, and we have righteousness on our side. California is a wasteland. Period. How can it not be a wasteland when you had MOX fuel?
He also genuinely believes in death plumes.
I bet I had a Canadian government out there and found just big death plumes coming in here and never told nobody. Let the kids walk to school. Let their families walk to school. Let their families go and get their mail and that kind of stuff.
However, unlike regular death plumes that actually cause, well, death, curiously these death plumes in Canada didn't kill anyone. Well, shit, how could they? Even in Japan, the place where this radioactive leak actually happened, no one died. 15,000 died from the tsunami. None died from the Fukushima disaster. And he's got some pretty strong opinions about, well, me and my reality-based stance on radioactivity. I'll let him explain.
And creepy fucking monsters like Thunderfoot, when there's so... He should have said... well, here's some real maps. Here's some real studies. Instead, he just tried to make it look like everybody that even mentioned the word Fukushima. Right? I mean, people like that are not really human. Don't consider them human. They're fair fucking game, okay? People like that shouldn't be allowed to drive.
Yeah. You might have thought that many folks would have picked up on the subtle tells. Like, when he says that California is a radioactive wasteland. Even though it's bloody obvious that it's not. But he uses a lot of techie words. Surely he must know what he's talking about there, right? Well, sadly, no. Almost none of what he says stands up to even the most rudimentary fact-checking.
We know that iodine-131 is man-made dangerous isotope, but no one bothers telling you that it turns into 132, which is 9 times worse.
Yeah, and the reason they don't tell you that is because it doesn't happen. Just like they don't tell you that California is a radioactive wasteland, and they don't tell you that there are death plumes in Canada. Look, iodine-131 decays to xenon-131. He also likes going on about how you get more strontium-90 than cesium.
And we got lots of numbers, of course. They've mentioned cesium-137. Well, you can't have cesium-137 unless you got 30 times more strontium-90.
And of course it gets truer if you say it louder.
You can't have cesium without 30 times more strontium.
when in reality you get comparable amounts of these from the thermal fission of uranium-235. I mean, these are just the warning signs that maybe the guy whose knowledge of ionizing radiation is limited to drawing symbols with crayons is maybe not the best place to go for your advice on radiation. But other things should set off your bullshit alarms like crazy. For instance, he believes in all sincerity that this powerful tropical storm that hit the Philippines was driven by heat from the ocean from the leaked isotopes from Fukushima.
And that contaminant is heading all the way to North America, meaning the ocean is filling up and it's heating up because it's putting out all this energy. I made a video full of this called Fukushima Butter Numbers if you need more. But what happened to the Philippines is a direct result of the radiation being absorbed into those super cyclones. I had a Canadian government out there and found just big death plumes coming in here and never told nobody. Let the kids walk to school. Let their families walk to school. Let their families go and get their mail and that kind of stuff. For what? For a paycheck for another couple of years? Until a big storm like the Philippines comes in here and tears up this coastline? You don't think it's not going to happen. As the strength of it increases as it comes along the coastline, you too can get a storm just like the Philippines or Tonga.
I know, I was joking in my last video that someone could be stupid enough to blame things like forest fires on Fukushima. I mean, I know there were people who genuinely blamed Fukushima for their back pain.
I have disc degenerative disease in my lower back, and I have no family history of it, and I have no accident that could have caused it. And I have some digestive problems as well, and stomach pain as well.
And there were people who genuinely blamed Fukushima for gaining weight.
Right now I have a lot of weight issues and thyroid issues that I didn't have before I came in, and issues that I didn't have after I had my child.
And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if people are now coming forward that say Fukushima killed their cat or turned them into a newt.
Got better.
But to blame the weather on Fukushima, I mean, surely it must make you weep tears of despair for the future of mankind that someone like this has thousands of followers. I mean, how can they possibly believe that a hurricane was caused by Fukushima heating up water?
But what happened to the Philippines is a direct result of the radiation being absorbed into those super cyclones.
You don't have to know that much to know that the order of magnitude of energy in a good storm is colossal. Indeed, according to NOAA, a hurricane runs at about 600 terajoules per second. Now, it's true, Fukushima was a big power generating facility. It was one of the biggest nuclear reactors in the world. And even at its peak production, it was only producing about 6 gigawatts. Sure, it's enough energy to send Marty McFly back in time. But even with a plant running at full whack, it could only supply enough energy to power about 100,000th of a storm like this. Indeed, the total power output of mankind could only just about power such a storm. Now, the reason I bring that up is twofold. First of all, it puts into perspective just how much energy there is out there in the environment and how insignificant the power generation efforts of mankind are in comparison to it. But secondly, it shows you just how batshit crazy this idea that this storm was powered by radioactive leaks is. But I hear you say, his video has lots of really big numbers in it, and they sound really professional and really scary.
That model didn't include a leaked TEPCO report of 120 billion becquerels, disintegrations a second, every second, for thousands of years of plutonium. I mean millions, billions of years. And 7.6 trillion becquerels of disintegrations per second, every day, endless energy, like a big battery of Neptunian that was released in the first 100 hours.
That's fine. Let's just do a really simple calculation here. Firstly, a single plutonium decay releases about 5 mega electron volts, which I'm going to turn into joules here. Now, a becquerel is 1 disintegration per second. So we have about 120 billion disintegrations per second. Each of those disintegrations is releasing about 1 trillionth of a joule. So our energy generation per second, that is our power generation, is about 1/10 of a joule per second. That is 1/10 of a watt. That is the entire power generation from this 120 billion becquerels. It's about 1/10 of a watt. That's 1/400th of the power to run a 40-watt light bulb. Wow, there you go. That entire devastating plutonium leak is providing the entire Pacific Ocean with the same amount of heating as 1/10 of a watt light bulb. Maybe we should put up another video explaining to everyone how seeing as 1/10 of a watt light bulb can supply these massive cyclones that if anyone turns on a 60-watt light bulb, it'll bring on the end of the world. Why, a 100-watt light bulb will instantly disintegrate the Earth. However, this, believe it or not, is not the stupidest thing that he has said about radioactivity by a long way. And I'm not limiting myself here to just the stuff where he is trivially wrong. This guy has said the stupidest thing ever said about radiation by a long way. And he said it in multiple videos, just to be clear that he believes it. But that is going to be the subject of the next Patreon-supported video.